Hey everybody. Um, well, here we go with my first video power poll. The second one of the season. Here we go with the 12th position. Sad to say it hasn't changed. The Samoans are holding it down. And I know what you're thinking, Kurt. You got 3 wins. What the hell? You're being a dick. One-sided. Let me just throw some numbers out there to you. You only scored 516 points. By far the worst in the league. Give you an example on the opposite end of the spectrum. Belichick yourself, 648 points. Okay, you've actually outscored opposition with that tiny amount of points you've scored. You've still managed to outscore your opposition so far, who hasn't even scored 500 total points, which explains your 3 wins. Now, not to be a dick, let's just move on from there. Your quarterbacks, though, when you're deciding between Carson Palmer and Jay Cutler, who's starting each week, there's a problem in your quarterback position. I mean, Victor Cruz is the only light spot on that team. I hope you can get your shit together with that team, but they look like they might just be a lost cause. But good luck. Alright, so at number 11 we got Uno. Look, Matt Forte got hurt. It cost you points. He's coming back. He's probably going to do all right for you. But you also have Jamal Charles, who's a monster on the house. Okay, he's really Jekyll and Hyde there. So which one's going to show up to the game? Not to mention, you got Steve Smith, who's less than half the man he used to be, or what you probably expected him to be at least when you drafted him. That whole Carolina team seems cancerous. Now, really, the only reason I am ranking you above Curtis, being that you have that worst record and all, and I know I'm to hear about that, is that you actually would be 4-2 against Curtis head-to-head so far. You have slightly outscored him, and that's it. Your teams are really kind of like 12A and 12B, and neither one of you deserves to be 11. Except you beat me, and maybe I'm just bitter. Alright, the next one's probably going to throw a couple of you guys off. Coming in at 10, we got the team that was coming in at 1! And the first poll, that's Stu and Brand's sister. 3 straight losses, less than 250 total points in the last 3 weeks. They look very, very bad. It's that whole start off strong, stumble your way to nothingness. Or, hey, maybe you can just barely make it to the playoffs, but sitting at 2-4 right now, and the way your team's been looking, and the lack of depth, there's some issues there. But good luck to you, Mikey. All right. Anyways, next up we got Smokers Cokers coming in at 9. 1-5 record, but you could have been a lot better had you had somebody else's record. Numerous other people's record. You've been consistently slightly below what normally wins, below that century point, but a solid 80-90 point team every week pretty much. But you got the 4th highest point total against you, which, pretty rough schedule for you. I think you could turn it around and possibly make a playoff run, but it's going to happen pretty soon here. Tom Brady's going to have to start playing the way you thought he was going to play when you drafted him so high, for one. And for 2, Steven Jackson's got to keep that job and better start doing something too. If those 2 things happen, and you can get a couple other guys plugged in the right situations, you could have a good solid team. So I'm coming in at number 8. We got a Who's Your Daddy with a 4-2 record, but still it's an ugly 4-2. You got the second least points scored so far, which paid pretty much anybody else's record or schedule. I'm sorry, you would have a worse record. And one of the fewer point totals against, like only 20 more points than you scored, and like I said, second least has been scored against you. So you've had a pretty passive schedule as well. Let me just give you a few names: Darren McFadden, Chris Johnson, and DeMarco Murray. Now, especially Chris Johnson, on cold and lot cold for Chris Johnson. And even DMC, man, Ron DMC is just not doing it. Now, if you can get these guys to play like they did in other points in their career up to their full potential, then you could have a solid team still. but it's just a matter of they're just not firing right now. And if you don't make a trade or a move, hey, call Courage up. He seems pretty trade happy. So the Frogs come in at number 7 with a 2-4 record. You know, there's like 6 in the league in scoring, but they had the most points against them, over 700 points against these guys already. I mean, that's not even right. That's just unfair. Man, I'm not good at that. Yeah, they actually have a relatively tough. Hang on, look up about this team. In the 7th position, we got the Fortune Frogs. The Frogs are only 2-4, but they're good 2-4. I mean, they're among the top chunk of the league, 6th in points scored. Really, the top 7 teams are all pretty tight with points scored, forgiving the first 2 who have a good chunk lead. But then everybody else kind of bunched up in there to take it to the bottom. He's right in that mix. Just didn't get the wins because he's actually had the most points scored against him so far. And that's not going to work either. Anyways, he's had a lot of points scored against him. He's had some bad luck. He's got a guy named Jimmy Graham who's not really playing as well as he thought he would. And he's got a guy named RG3 who's playing like a guy drafted with the first pick. Like he was. Anyway, well, he's playing that way. He just could have had it 5 or 6 rounds later. Still had to play that way for you. But, hey, nice pick anyway, Lou. Alright, next up we got the Willis. Now, if you guys remember, at the first power pull, he was sitting at 0-3. Things weren't looking real good. He was having problems even from Aaron Rodgers. And I gave him crap at that point about some free agent moves he'd made, dropping some players. Now, but actually, he's done a really good job. And through this 3-game winning streak that he's had since, to make it 3-3, picking up and adding players on the waiver wire, especially these guys that you didn't expect to be producing, and now are in positions where they could give you some points. So his team's looking a lot better. He's on the way up. Like I said, 3-game winning streak. So who's going to stop him? Coming in at number 5, we got Fortune. Now this is a team I had huge hopes for at the start of the season, before the name change, and it seems like you didn't get the luck the Frogs. You got like kind of the opposite, where you got the second most points scored against you. It's kind of like you kind of took Lou's bad luck instead in that department, and you guys both shared that, as well as having some players not show up for you. He didn't have Jimmy Graham and a couple other guys. You got Cam Newton, Doug Martin, pretty much go down the list on your team. The only one that's been gold, and he's been gold, the fantasy gem, is Aaron Foster. You might want to look at a 2-for-1 trade, moving him to maybe help your team out. I think you make the playoffs without him, but I think maybe that might give you a better shot to win it all, especially since he's the guy that would be sitting riding fine at the end of the season anyhow. But 5 right now, Joe. 2 games to get. Good luck. I'm just going to give up on that. But anyway, next up, yeah, we did a joke, is the Ninjas. 0.2 points, Lou, you had to beat me by that kind of margin. Come out of nowhere, you weren't projected for shit. Anyways, we're 3-3. But we have the 4th most points for, 6th most against us. A solid roster, in my opinion, with a shit ton of depth, especially at running back and wide receiver. Although I've been hitting a lot of buys, and I think I've weathered them quite well, scoring over 104 out of the past 5 weeks. The only week not being the week I had no tight end. And I'm sure I could have got 2 points with one of them. At any rate, number 4 for the Ninjas. We're hoping for the playoffs this year. If we can just stay 500, I think we should be. Alright, next up we got Tapping Out. Tapping Out got the 2nd highest scoring team in the league with 630.4 points and 3-game win streak. Coming along with that has been a pretty fluff schedule. The 10th fewest points scored against them, but they've scored pretty dependably thanks to guys like Drew Brees, Percy Harvin, and even rookie Trent Richardson's been a nice gamer for him. So look to them to possibly make it into the playoffs. Alright, coming in at number 2, we got Rhett's Retards. Now, obviously I wasn't very high on him when he was 3-0, Rhett's Retards, on the first power poll. I can't remember what I ranked him off the top of my head, but it wasn't the top 3. No, I think it was quite a bit lower. But at any rate, I got to show him respect now. He's basically punched tickets to the playoffs with 5-1 record already. He is in that upper chunk of people in the scoring, the 7th ranked team. So in that upper chunk of scoring with like 590 points, you know, like 90 some points a game on average. At any rate, he's got a decent cast of players, but there's a lot of hit or miss, and has had a pretty weak schedule so far, so that helps his record as well. I think he's kind of more of a mid-tier team, but has had the fluff schedule so far, or at least opposition hasn't showed up those weeks. So, yeah, he's your number 2 team right now, but basically just for those reasons as a name. But good job as well, Rep. And only one more left. I wonder who it could be. Alright, for this last one, obviously it's Brandy, okay? So Brandy, you at 4-2 are the number 1 team in the league right now. Yeah, the highest point scorer right now. I named the number earlier. I don't care right now. Alright, you're doing a good job. You got a good team. And I'll play you this week. And guess what I ranked Mike last time? The week I played him. Just keep that in mind. Hope that keeps you awake at night. At any rate, you got a solid cast of players, especially in your starting positions, and your bye fill-ins have done a decent job so far for you. So I see you as definitely a playoff team at this point. It's how far you're going to go. You know, barring a major injury or a couple major injuries, I see you in the postseason. So congratulations, good job so far, and you're ranked number 1 as the only girl in the league, and somehow you're beating all us boys. Good job.
Ninja.